was once not only one of America's fastest growing cities, it was much more than that. It was the jewel in America's industrial crown, the steam engine of the arsenal of democracy. You could make a compelling case that the city of Detroit won World War II. Now it's falling apart. What was once the center of American industrial might looks like it's a bombed-out ghetto, and Michael Barone, writing in the New York Post, looks behind what he calls the tragedy of Detroit. Its population is less than half of what it was in 1950. Its electrical grid and water supply are failing. Its police and fire departments are dysfunctional. And Barone points out that today's Detroit is facing bankruptcy and ruin as a result of the failure of its big three: big government, big business, and big labor. So let's bring in Steve Green, and sitting in for Scott Ott this week from Washington, D.C., Next Generation's Michelle Fields. Steve, Michelle, good to have you. Well, guys, the economy has changed from the heady industrial area days of World War II, the 50s and the 60s. Now, that's part of the cause, but other places like Texas, for example, saw a path to new prosperity by lowering taxes and slashing regulations. But Detroit, says Barone, is mired in the past, locked in a three-way vice by three giant dinosaurs: big government, big business, and big labor. Steve, can you give us an idea of how these three forces kind of interact with each other to such terrible effect?
Yeah, I sure can. Although first I want to say, you know, the decline is even worse than you said. Coming out of World War II, the United States produced half of the manufactured wealth in the world. Half of that was produced in the Great Lakes region, centered on Detroit. Detroit was the heart; it was the pulse of that thing, and it's gone. That's now the Rust Belt. It's gone. And years ago at Vodka Planet, I wrote an essay called "Soft Fascism." I said, forget about the wars, forget about the Holocaust, forget about the silly uniform. Fascism as a political system is this triumvirate ruling system of big labor, big government, and big business. Now, we see how fascist countries end when it comes to war, and that is whole countries in rubble. And now we've seen how fascist cities come to an end, and that cities in rubble.
Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Michelle, there's a lot of czars out there now. If we made you the Detroit czar, and we told you could do whatever you wanted to do, just get it fixed, what would you do?
Well, look, first and foremost, I would tell states like California that this is where they're heading, and don't go down this path. What Detroit did is they taxed everyone so that they left. They basically kicked everyone out by taxing them too much. So now they don't have a tax base, they don't have revenue. What they need to do is start making Detroit business friendly, not big labor friendly, because that's what it's always been. Unions controlling everything, a very dysfunctional, corrupt government. So they need to clean house, they need to allow businesses in, lower taxes, lower regulations so they can create jobs, so there isn't so much crime because people are at work. They're not just on the streets trying to find food and trying to find shelter. What they need to do is lower taxes. I think that's the bottom line. And fix their schools. Take it out of the hands of the unions and give it back to the teachers, back to the students.
What she said. Why don't you make her mayor? It's not so hard. You know, my friends, we're no longer in exclusively...
Am I hired? Can I be
No,
the czar?
you are hired. I am telling you, you are hired. It's just that simple. It's really just that simple. But as I was saying, you know, we're not exclusively an industrial era society anymore, and we haven't been for a long time. Every day, we move more and more from an industrial age economy to an information age economy, and every day, the bigs get more and more obsolete. New businesses are smaller, they're more networked, they're lighter, they're faster, and more agile. They're the furry little animals, little mammals, scurrying around the feet of the big, slow, stupid, fossilized dinosaurs whose rule has come and gone. Now, a decade ago, I could have said pretty much the same thing Michelle said. I could have said the sooner Detroit abandons its blue state, big spend and big tax solutions, the sooner it'll recover. But I actually think it may be too late for that now. It may be too late to save Detroit. And if we're not very careful and begin to wake up and right quick, it will not be long before other blue state cities like the one I live in will start to look like the tarnished jewel that deserved a far, far better fate than the one that 40 years of Democratic policies has bequeathed to it. For PJTV, I'm Bill Whittle.